Good morning, everybody. Greetings from Vimala College. I hope I'm audible to you. I'm Dr. Ruby, Head Department of Home Science, your host today. Welcome to the webinar on sustainable fashion. Fashion has two different relations when it comes to sustainability. The one is the impact of the whole fashion industry on the ecosystem, and the second relation could be that we are looking for a circular economy in fashion. So, where is it that goes wrong in the fashion industry in its social, economic, and environmental dimensions? How can we build a new story around fashion where we can take pride in recycling, reuse, and in the joy of having something that lasts forever? To give us more insights into this, we have with us today Dr. Ritu Madan, Assistant Professor, Department of Textile and Fashion Technology, College of Home Science, Nirmala Niketan, affiliated to Mumbai University. Dr. Ritu is a self directed and an action oriented professional with over 19 years of teaching experience. She is also a research guide. She equips herself with comprehensive teacher education programs through pre service and in service training that makes her that makes her competent and committed and dedicated to improve the quality of teaching and learning. Moreover, she's a good friend of mine and a classmate at SNDT Women's University, Mumbai. From the whole Vimala community, I extend a cordial welcome to you, Ritu.
Thank you, Ruby, for the kind words.
Hearty welcome to all the participants, students, faculty members from various universities across the nation, and my colleagues. Wishing all a very fruitful and interactive session. Before we begin the session, just a small instruction to the participants. All the participants are requested to mute their audio and switch off their video. However, their chat boxes can be active, and Dr. Ritu is more of an interactive. She asks for a more of an interactive session than a lecture-based session. Okay, all your queries can be posted in the chat box, which will be addressed by the presenter.
Sustainability. Sustainability basically means different concepts to different people. Now, with this, what we are referring to, a large growing community is talking about eco fashion, it's talking about slow fashion. We also have concepts related to whether we should have a better continuity and we should have something which is going to benefit the environment to a larger extent. So, coming down to what is sustainability in fashion, there are a whole lot of alternative terms which are being used, and those terms include eco fashion, eco friendly, sustainable fashion. Then you have ethical fashion, biodegradable, slow and fast fashion. Now these are two very important terms which are connected to sustainable fashion. Now going ahead, we need to first figure out, am I audible? Okay, so what is sustainability? Now, this is a three-pronged approach where we look at people and place, environment, and we look at the economy. Now, all the three cannot exist without the other. So, for people and place, you have to ensure that there is a delivering adaptable where you can assess the people, you can connect them with the different places on the globe, and at the same time, you can make available for them what is best for them. On the other hand, you have environment. Environment has to be preserved come what may. We are going through a pandemic right now, and I believe everybody has understood in these last 2 months how much the environment has changed while we are in the lockdown. What has happened in the entire term of 2 months is that the environment has cleared up. There is lower levels of pollution in the environment. The seas and the rivers are cleaning up on their own. So we need to ensure that the environment is also taken care of and conserved. When you have people in place as well as the environment in position, we are automatically going to make this place much more livable. Now, without economy, we cannot even think of going to people, place, and as well as protecting the environment, because the economy has to be such that it generates a profit for each of us, and at the same time does not run too deep into anybody's pockets. So when the economy and the environment are together hand in hand, it will automatically become viable. Likewise, when economy is taking care of the people and the place, we will have something which is going to be much more equitable. And when we have equitable, livable, and viable coming in together, the place is going to be much more sustainable. Not just the place, we can also say that the environment, the process, the entire industry is going to be much more sustainable. Now, coming down to why do we need to look at the issue of sustainability in the textile or the fashion industry? Is it really that the industry is very, very large? Are we really using a lot of resources? Is the textile industry not sustainable? If so, what is the nature of the impact? Now, give me a quick yes if you think that we need to have sustainability in fashion, and give me a no if you think you do not need sustainability in the fashion industry. On your chat box right now, give me a quick yes or no if you think you need or do not need the sustainability issue dealt with. Okay, we already have a lot of yes coming in. Okay, no no's as of now. So we get started. Now, this is a glimpse of the Indian textile industry. Now, these are projections for the next year. Now, 2015, we were a 100 plus billion-dollar industry in India. And gradually we have grown, and it is projected that by the time we reach 2021, we are going to be a 220 billion industry. You can imagine how much we are going to grow. And if we look at it's just a span of 6 years, and we are going to grow by almost $100 billion, reaching almost the double of where we started. So if you look at the CAGR, that is the common accumulated growth rate, it is going to be 12.8%. Now, this is as far as the dark green ones that you see in are what is the size of the industry. Likewise, if you also look at the light colored graphs bars underneath, that is the amount of export that is happening. It dipped in 2016, but then it has grown thereafter. Now, uh, the apparel industry is a part of the textile industry, but it in itself is not complete. So we have to look at the textile industry and the apparel industry both to get a fair idea. Now, the apparel industry in 2015 was at $45 billion, and by 2025, it's going to be at a whooping $123 billion industry. Now, for those who think that this is going to be a big, big, big jump, just hold your breath, because this entire terms and figures that we are using, it accumulates only on 5% of the global exports. So the graph that you are seeing on your screen right now is the percentage exports to the entire world, all the different countries that are exporting. So India is just at 5%. Even though we are going to be a $123 billion industry, it's just going to be a 5% of the total. But out of that 5%, India is exporting to US, UK, UAE, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, Netherlands, Bangladesh, China, but the maximum percentage goes to US. Now, this gives us a fair idea on how big the industry is. Now, going ahead, what is the kind of impact that we have on the textile industry or the environment? Now, 20% of the industrial water pollution comes from treating and dyeing of textiles. It takes 700 gallons of waters, which is enough to produce one t-shirt. The industry is said to be the second most polluting industry, and we are now using genetically modified cotton as against the organic cotton. So even if we are buying something which states 100% cotton, it's not the original organic cotton that we had years ago. Now, the production of the fiber itself, if you look at, is accountable for 18% of the pesticide and 25% of the insecticide being used worldwide. Now, these figures are definitely mind boggling. Did you just even think that this is how the industry works? Did you imagine the figures to be so high? Give me a yes if you thought that we are so polluting, and a no if you had no idea about it. Come on, give me a quick yes or no on your chat box. Moving ahead, let us look at only the cotton story. We are not looking at all the fibers. We have a limited time schedule, so we are not looking at all the fibers, but we'll only look at cotton. So that will give you a fair idea about all the other fibers also which are getting used. So if you look at the water requirement, something as potatoes or wheat, which requires hardly a few liters of water per kilo of their crop. But cotton, on the other hand, requires as much as almost 18,000 liters per kilo of cotton produced. The insecticide and the pesticide requirement, I've already given you an indication, but of the entire use, we take up 24%. Many marine species are becoming extinct now because of the water contamination. There are a lot of carbon emissions which are taking place. And in 2010, there was an total waste which was generated was 234 tons, which went into the landfills of Hong Kong alone. So what can you do? So what is the answer that you have for this? If you are looking at the figures here, what do you think is the answer to your questions? Sustainability, according to me, is it or is it not? Now, this is just one fiber that we have spoken about. Like this, there are so many different fibers that we use in our day to day life without even thinking about it. If you look at the lay people, they won't have as many also. Now, how many t-shirts do you own? We spoke about one fiber. Now we will just pick up one item of clothing from your wardrobe, and I'm asking you this question: how many t-shirts do you own? Now, do you want to try doing this live poll, or do you want to put it in on the chat box? Yes. So you can log in into mentimeter.com for live polling and enter in the code. And we can also look at those who do not wish to log in into mentimeter.com. You can put in how many t-shirts do you own approximately on the chat box. It can be 0 to 10, it can be 10, 20, 30, 30 plus, whatever random numbers you wish to put in on the basis of approximated ideas. I do not want exactly the same number as you have, but you can give me an approximate number of the t-shirts that you have. Can I have that number coming in quickly? Okay, I have received quite a few responses here on the chat box: 10 to 20, 10 to 15, more than 10, 10 to 20. Received some of the responses here. Are you logging into Mentimeter? Okay, let's get back to this. So many of you have mentioned the number of t-shirts that you own. On the chat box. So 10 to 20 is what is the approximate number that I'm getting here on the chat box. Let me tell you, there was a survey done and it has been found out that approximately every Indian owns about 27 t-shirts. That is the approximate number, average number of t-shirts that has been taken up by the survey. Now, growing cotton for one t-shirt's requirement requires about 2,700 liters of water. Now, can you imagine the amount of water required for growing cotton for one t-shirt is equal to the drinking water for 2.5 years for one person. Now, a t-shirt roughly requires 5,000 liters of water for manufacturing equivalent to 20 cups of tea. There are 1.5 kilo of harmful chemicals which are used in every t-shirt, including the dyes, 25% of which are draining down into the water system. And 1.2 million tons end up in the landfills, which is equal to 24,000 jumbo jets. And 150 grams of pesticide is required per t-shirt. So you can imagine the kind of figures that you are seeing, that sustainability is definitely the need of the hour. Now here you can see again the impact of the t-shirt: 7 pounds of carbon dioxide, 700 gallons of water, 1/3 pound of pesticides, herbicides. Then you have 17 to 20% of the I think somebody's microphone is on. Request you to mute the audio, please. One garment in the entire wardrobe that you have. Now, moving ahead, the most important thing that I would like to point out on this particular slide is that every American typically has 68 pounds of clothing which is discarded every year, and 99% of discard is reusable or recyclable. So even if you think that it is not worth using anymore, you can still reuse it. Somebody else may love it, or it can be recycled. Now, we are committing a crime because we are in the fashion industry. At the same time, let us look at the other area. We have looked at water, looked at the pollution levels, but the thing that we need to look at, 1 in every 6 are working in the fashion or related industries, and 80% women are there in the entire supply chain. Now, with all this, if you look at the negative impacts of the apparel industry, you have resource depletion, you have climate change, you have animal suffering, you have water pollution, you have food insecurity, you have air pollution, you have habitat destruction, and you have human right abuses. In case any of these points is not clear, put a quick word on the chat box. Is this clear? Because we have looked at the kind of water requirement, we've looked at the kind of pollutants, we've looked at the carbon emissions, we've looked at the women working in the industry, we've looked at the, now since we've looked only at cotton, we spoke only about the cotton growing, but there is a lot of animal suffering for fibers that we are generating from the animals. Now, these are the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, which have been proposed in 2019. Now, looking at these goals, can we integrate these goals into the apparel industry? Yes, we can. Those who are with me, quickly post a yes for UN. Write UN for showing that you support the UN goals of sustainable development and you would make efforts to reach the same. Give me a quick UN if you think that these goals should be implemented. Now, how are we going to implement this? Now, there are two aspects to this. If you look at the slide, part of it is in shades of yellow and part of it is in shades of purple. So you have to have better supply chain traceability to begin with. And you have to take in efficient use of water, energy, and chemicals. All this will lead to combating the climate change. And you also need to give in a respectable and a secure work environment to all the people who are working in the industry. Many of you would be aware that when in the royal household of England, when Prince Archie was born to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, that is Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, at that time she had purchased a toher or a wrap for her child, which were sourced from a brand in Rajasthan. There was a lot of criticism which had come in specifically because of the aspect of respect and secure work environment to the workers. It was said that since it's an Indian brand, the wages may not be proper, or the workers may not be living in hygienic conditions, to which the designer had actually come up to the fore, and she had spelt out the wages that she pays to the people there. Now, when you do this, you also need to keep in mind that you need to have a sustainable material mix. What I mean with sustainable material mix is that some of the old clothing or the old textiles need to be recycled to be able to generate the requirement needed for the population. That is when we are going to have a circular fashion system, promote better wages, and lead to the next industrial revolution. Now, there are a lot of talks on slow fashion and fast fashion. Now, what is slow fashion and what is fast fashion? If I simply put it, slow fashion is with the same thought process as that of sustainable fashion, whereas fast fashion is the contrary of what slow fashion is. So, if you look at the size of the industry, fast fashion is $1.44 trillion industry annually, whereas slow fashion is small businesses. Here we are using petroleum based materials, whereas slow fashion uses organic materials. The environmental pollution for fast fashion obviously is going to be very high. Slow fashion is going to be low because it is going to be more eco friendly process. Protocols involved are modern methods for fast fashion, which end up harming the environment and also end up being unethical. Production is every 2 weeks you have a new style coming in, and there are almost seasons a year. But if we look at slow fashion, every piece is supposed to be a unique piece and it should be a limited edition. It is the slow fashion products, since they are unique and they are limited edition, they are obviously going to be expensive, they're going to last long term. Whereas since it's mass produced, fast fashion is going to be cheap and it is supposed to be of a slightly inferior quality as compared to that of slow fashion. Labor obviously wouldn't be locally sourced. It would be maybe the factory is based in a country like Bangladesh and we are the products here, or in US and UK. But in slow fashion, you source all your products from people nearby. I think we are learning that now during the lockdown, that we have to source and use whatever is available close to us. So ultimately, you have to look at a small industry which gives a good profit and at the same time takes care of the locals and the environment around it. All those who wish to follow slow fashion, give me a SF on the chat box. Give me a SF quickly on the chat box if you want to follow slow fashion. Now, we have to ensure, if we are following slow fashion, the entire design process is also supposed to be oriented towards the generation of a product which is going to be far more sustainable as compared to a fast fashion product. The design is supposed to be sustainable, which means you are going to use products which are local, which are environment friendly, and which are going to be safe for the environment. they should also be involving ethical practices. The production has to be done keeping quality and craftsmanship in mind. And when you are consuming the product, you have to ensure that the product is very, very long lasting. India typically had been a slow fashion industry with most of the women wearing saris, and those saris would last for years and years. Many of you would agree that some of the academia still have the saris that were with them maybe 20 years down the line. And some of the students would agree that they have seen some of the saris with their mothers for decades. Give me a quick thumbs up for sari. Sari, thumbs up. Now, these are the 7 pillars of sustainability in the fashion industry. Now, fashion industry can also be sustainable, provided everything is made on demand and it is custom made. Now, when you are getting a product, now if you look at a few years down the line, we would go to the market, buy the fabric, go to the tailor, select a pattern, and get the garment stitched. Whether it was a garment of Indian orientation or a Western garment, you still had to get it custom made. Unlike today, where you simply pick up your phone, go on to any of the online portals, and just click on add to cart and buy. So, if we go back to custom made, we will definitely reduce our consumptions. Green and clean. So, when you are going to reduce your consumption and everything is going to be custom made for you, you will automatically be saving the environment by reducing the amount of mass production that is happening in the fast fashion industry. When you are getting it made for yourself specifically, it automatically ends up being of a better quality because you buy the fabric with a lot of caution. Even after you give it to the tailor, you are ensured, I want this here, I want that there, the kind of trims that you use, etc., etc. Unlike some of the designer outfits where maybe the hooks also come off after a couple of uses. The designs also are classic rather than being just fads of the industry. They will automatically be fair and ethical because you will give the tailor the required due, you will give the shopkeeper the required due, and everybody in the process chain will also end up getting used. You can repair, redesign, and upcycle, which is so true. Madhuri has written on the chat box that even after the sari is torn, it is yet converted into another garment and worn and not disposed of, which is so, so, so true. You can also rent, loan, and swap. There are many organizations these days which have started off with the concept of renting garments, even bridal wear available on rent. Gowns, Indian wear, Western wear, whatever you want, even bags and shoes are available on rent. So that seems to be a much better option rather than investing in every piece. Also, thanks to the social media, what we are ending up doing is I have posted one picture of mine in this particular outfit. Now I cannot repeat that outfit to post pictures on the social media. How many of you are social media conscious? Give me a yes for the consciousness of social media. And think about it, if every time we are going to not repeat a garment, we are going to so burden the landfills. Now, there is also the last pillar talks about secondhand and vintage, where if you have secondhand clothes or you have vintage items available, you should go ahead and buy it. At times, there are certain people of the in the society who cannot repeat their garments, but they in turn can sell it off, auction it off, and there would be a whole lot of people who would be willing to buy it. So these are the 7 pillars of sustainability in fashion. I'm getting a lot of no's for uh, not being conscious on the social media. I am so glad to see the no replies on the chat box that you do not mind repeating your outfits for social media. But yes, I do know people who do not repeat garments on social media also. Moving ahead from here, yes, I do agree with you that Earlier, people used to hesitate in buying secondhand, but now they do not. Now, these are some of the features which describe sustainable fashion. What I would want you to do is quickly on the chat box, give me one feature that you think is going to lead to sustainable fashion. It can be a part of the packaging, it can be a part of the product, it can be a part of the store, it can be anything. Give me a quick feature that you would want to see in your next sustainable garments. I'm waiting to go to the next slide so that I get to quickly see what your aspects are. Wonderful. Nair Supriya says use of natural dyes. Now, these are based on the features that you're looking at here are based on a survey which had been done in London, and the consumers there have listed all these factors as something that would describe sustainable fashion for them. So ethical and fair trade practices are what take the lead. Then you have no hazardous chemicals, obviously natural dyes and eco printing would give us a pollution free process, high quality, durable, biodegradable, recycled materials, reduce packaging, biodegradable materials, minimize logistics or a good supply chain, so on and so forth. So you can quickly take a look at all of these and just look at this last one. Rental services and sharing just take up 2% of what the consumers feel. Now, next up, what is the consideration that you would give to buy a sustainable fashion product? What would be your criteria? Would it be price? Would it be the fiber? Would it be the process? Would it be the brand? What would it be? Just quickly give me a response on the chat box. What is it that you would look out for when you are wanting to buy sustainable fashion? Again, the factors listed here are price, which takes up 57%, quality, 49%, which is good enough, style, convenience of purchasing, materials, eco-friendliness, concept, message of the brand. Now, if we look at convenience of purchasing, it is taking up almost 30% of the responses. Now, the convenience of purchasing is very, very important. If we look at the Indian scenario, most of our artisans are based in the interiors, in the rural areas, because of which they are not accessible by most of the population, which is why all of us in the entire fashion fraternity, academia, as well as the students, should put in thought to ensure that the artisans reach the masses. Now, this is astonishing. Almost half the Indians spend 500 to 2,500 rupees monthly on clothing. So every month, people are buying clothes and they are really buying. Now, this is the shopping trends of how much do people spend on clothes. More than 14% are spending more than 2,500 rupees, and 38% are spending less than 500 rupees, which means the remaining 62% are spending more than that. Now, take a look at the wedding expenses for fashion. The apparel wedding market is estimated to be a 10,000 crore market, with the bridal and the designer sari or lehenga costing. Now, this I am giving you a very, very tight budget, but this also is not, it is just a very approximate thing. And I am very sure the estimates are much higher, 10,000 to 50,000 rupees, sorry. Designer sherwanis cost anywhere up to 40,000. The relatives' clothes take up about 1 to 2 lakh rupees. The trousseau is costing around 40,000 to 1 lakh rupees. Given the kind of scenario that we live in, you have to have 7, 15, 21 saris or suits, etc., etc. And 5 lakh rupees are spent for every wedding in the country, which is quite a bit. Now, do you think you can bring about the change? I think yes, you can. If you think you can bring about this change, give me a quick yes on the chat box. Now, I am giving you some simple tips which you can incorporate on your day to day basis. Yes, there is society pressure, Nair Supriya, but we have to try to break out from the societal pressures, and we have to try. I'm not just talking about the wedding seasons or the wedding expenses, but on a day to day basis, yes, we should all strive and try to make the change. Now, what are these little changes? Did you even think that using the tumbler is going to harm the environment? When you dry out clothes in the washing machine, you are using electricity. If you stop drying your clothes in the washing machine, now in a layman's term, you are going to save up to 200 to 300 rupees every month on the use of the washing machine, which is annually around 3,000 rupees. So, big savings if you do it on a regular basis. Less electricity means lesser harm or lesser carbon footprint that you are generating for your nation. Organize your wardrobe. How many of you have a wardrobe looking like the one on the right or looking like the one on the left? Give me a right or left on the chat box. Come on, you don't have to give in to the pressure to write right. You can write left also. That's so correct. In between. So there are days when it looks like the one on the right, and there are days when it looks like the one on the left. So, yes. Now, what is the major problem if we have the one which looks like on the left? You cannot see everything that you possess. So, there are a lot of clothes that you do not even end up wearing or do not even end up using some of your accessories. But you have to ensure that you keep the balance right. You cannot be as organized always as the one on the right, but you can definitely put in your effort to have a uniformity in using all your clothes. So, by doing that, you are going to also ensure that you get to see how many do you exactly have, which is why you will be able to curb the urge to buy more and more month on month. Mix and match. Now, here you can see only 7 pieces of clothing on the top, and there are 19 different looks which have been created with those 7 pieces. Being in the fashion industry, I think it's an easy job for all of us to mix and match. Give me easy on the chat box if you think it's easy, and give me not my cup of tea if you think you can't do it. So there are so many responding that it's easy. So, which means that when you go buying, you have to think that you have to pick up pieces which can be easily matched with anything else in your wardrobe. That will save resources, and that will also make you look in trend whenever and wherever you have to go out. Next is buy organic cotton. I mentioned in the beginning that there is 90% that is available is genetically modified cotton. And also there is a huge requirement of our insecticides as well as pesticides on the cotton crop. So let us pledge to use organic cotton. There are stores and there are brands in India which do have organic cotton. Yes, it ends up being expensive, but the minute you decide to buy one instead of two, you can definitely afford buying organic cotton also. Do not throw clothing in a bin. Now, you may be fed up using some pieces of clothing. You may not find certain pieces of clothing in trend, which is why you wouldn't want to use it. But all said and done, do not throw it in a bin. You can hand it over, which is the most common method in most households, that you hand it over to somebody who you think is going to use. but nonetheless, there are also agencies that take up clothing for recycling, and they recycle and make bags, different articles, and uh, other things which can be used in every household. So please make use of those agencies or in the industry. I don't think it's difficult to cycle to order things which are not of use to us right now. Last year, June 29, College of Home Science Nirmala Niketan had taken part in the HGH exhibition, and the students had very creatively put up the upcycled denims. So the old worn out denims from every household were collected, and they created a beautiful collection, not just for the living room, but also for the bedroom, kitchen, even for dining tables. They created a complete home furnishing look with the upcycled denim. The visitors at the exhibition could not even imagine was from old worn out denims. Buy quality items when you are buying. Do not give in to the going to local markets. In Mumbai, we have Linking Road, we have Fashion Street, we have Kolaba, where you get garments very easily and at cheap prices. But do not give in to that urge. Buy quality items, buy fewer items, but buy items which are going to be long lasting and which can be easily mixed and matched. Read labels carefully. Now, what at times what we do is we look at the garment style, cut, fit, but we forget to read the care label when we are buying the product. And if you have to, uh, you know, dry clean the garment every time, then what is going to happen is you would not find the process eco-friendly. Do not give in to the impulse. Question your shopping habits. This is the most important thing. How many give in to the impulse very easily? Just give me a me on the chat box if you give in to the impulse very. Waiting for your responses. Give me a quick me if you give in to the impulse. And thanks to all the online sites which have the big shopping days or the discount days and the mall on sale, we have too many indulgences to give in. Oh, there are quite a few of us who give in to the impulse, but let us resist. And even when we feel that we have that impulse, let us give into the impulse to buy something that is sustainable. Last but not the least, I would say this is the most important. Go Desi. Here at College of Home Science Nirmala Niketan, we have started with something called as the Swadeshi swag, which is that every Monday we have made it mandatory for everybody to dress up in something Indian or something sustainable. So it has to be, it can be a ajrak, it can be a bani, it can be a patchwork, it can be an embroidered, hand embroidered article, it can be anything. But you have to wear something Indian, which has come from some artisan somewhere in India, and we have called it the Swadeshi swag. All of you can also start similar practices in your work organizations, in your colleges, so that everybody then promotes the entire Atmanirbhar Abhiyan, thereby promoting the Indian crafts and also giving a better livelihood to all the artisans. It's nice to see that there is Khadi Day by Nair Supriya every third Wednesday. But make it more often so that people are then thinking, looking into their wardrobes and thinking, oh, I need to buy some more Indian clothes, or I need to buy something which is not machine made but handmade. So, Go Desi is very, very important. Now, small steps are going to lead to a big change. They won't overnight give you a big change, obviously, but we can take these small steps over a long period of time, which is going to give us a big change. So, first is change the mindset. Now, we can change the mindset not just at the level of the consumer, but also at the level of the industry, because there are many students who are now going to go out with this thought into the industry and they can make that change there. Likewise, we have academia who can bring about, who can give this thought, pass on this thought to the students coming batches and change their mindset also. So change the mindset, it is very, very important. It has to be self-sustaining. If I do not wear maybe sustainable fashion, how can I even think of promoting it? Because only when I do it, people see it and then people imbibe it. Likewise, build value chains and capacity. There can be a lot of researches concretely which can be done in adding more value to the supply chain, in making the handmade or sustainable goods available to the larger audience. Yes, it is not only garments which can be used, but it can also be extended to accessories, even home decor. There is a whole lot where it can get extended to. Now, with this entire presentation, we are looking at the fashion industry, yes, but India is home to a whole lot of crafts, whether it is pottery, whether it is carpet weaving, whether it is bed sheets, whether it is, there are a whole lot of things which are available. So you have to add value to the entire chain and you have to scale up the imperative and ensure it reaches the masses. This thought process, now if you look at, many designers have also tied up, leading fashion designers have also tied up with artisans. One artisan very, very prominently in the news in the last few months has been Ruma Devi, who has brought up the entire concept of applique work and has 30,000 women in the rural India working with her. And she even took it to the Paris Fashion Week. So with this thought, it is, I just want to leave you thinking that it is definitely not impossible to bring up sustainable fashion. Sustainable fashion is here not for us for today, but it can remain with us forever, provided we are here to take up the concrete steps and to bring it up further by ensuring that we are also creating a market for it, not just by buying it ourselves, but also enabling others around us to buy things which are sustainable in the long run. I would like to end with, fashion has the power to not only redefine our own industry and identity, but we can also make it a role model for others to reinvent their practices. Once we bring out change as the second leading pollutant in the world, to bringing out sustainable fashion in a big, big, big way, we can definitely ensure that the other industries also take note and also go forward and change their practices to become sustainable in the long run for all of us. Earth is ours. Let us all take a joint effort and ensure that all of us practice sustainable fashion in our day-to-day lives. Thank you so much.
Good morning, all. Myself, Hanis Nair, Assistant Professor on Contract, Department of Home Science, Vimala College, Thrissur. It's a great honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks. First of all, I thank Dr. Ritu Mathan, our resource person from Nirmala Niketan. Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your knowledge. And it was a very nice session and very informative. And then I thank our HOD, Dr. Thomas Ruby Mariama, and all other staff members of Department of Home Science, Vimala College, Thrissur. Special thanks to all the participants who joined the webinar, all the faculties, students, research scholars from our college and other colleges. Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am.